In this video, I'm going to be walking through how to create this dashboard in just 30 minutes. This was inspired by a dashboard creation of EY Jaya. I saw it on LinkedIn and decided to take a go at it. If you're trying to build your first dashboard or you're new to Power BI, this might be your first project. I'm going to be walking you through all the behind the scenes and you can create something similar for yourself. Without further ado, let's get right into it. First, I'm going to import my data from Excel and I'm going to launch it into Power Query by clicking the transform button. Next up, you're going to try to go through the data and see if there is any data cleaning task required. The first things I'm going to do would be to move some of my categorical columns to the left and just have all of that to the left. I'm just going to be selecting or multi-selecting the different categorical columns and just moving it to the beginning. I just like having all of that in the beginning so that it helps me to know where the numerical values are and where the categorical columns are. Next up, I want to create a new column, a conditional column based on the locations because we have a city, the cities that were given to us. So I want to attach the different states to each of those cities so that it can help in map creation. So just follow through. I have outlined the names of all of these cities for your reference.
You know who made it.
Once we're done creating the conditional column, we'll go ahead to move it again to the left and just have all of that alongside the other columns, all the categorical columns to the left. So once we have gone through our data, made sure that everything is right, we can close and load the data. And now we are back to Power BI. Now that we're back to Power BI, I want to create a new table that will house all my measures. Since our analysis will be based on the different product types, I want to create different buckets or folders to house each of the measures that will be created per each of those product types. So watch closely at what I'm doing. This helps me to be able to know which of the folders or to be able to pick and drop whatever measures that I need to use, especially when I'm visualizing. So I don't have to search for all of that since they are all in each bucket. So once we have that, we can start writing our DAX measures. The first DAX measures would be to get the sum or the total of the revenues generated for all our goods. So that will be using the sum DAX measures and then calling in the particular column. Next up, we want to be able to find the total SKUs. That means how many SKUs do we have, and I'm using the distinct count. Next, we would also get the total quantity ordered, how many quantities were ordered, and that would be calling in the order quantities. Next, we would also try to find out the total produce or total goods that were produced. Again, we would use the sum functions to get the total of that. Once we summary function, which would be to see the inventory turnover rates. So that would just be to divide the number of products sold by the average of stock levels so that we know the inventory turnover ratio. That helps us to be able to know for each goods that we sell what's the inventory ratio sold so that we know when to restock. It's usually very good for supply chain. Next up, we want to be able to get the defect rate. So there's a column called defect rate, and that's we're just going to get the defect rate times 100 to be able to get the defect rate ratio. Once we get that, we can go into each of those products. So each of these products want to be able to derive the total revenue that was generated per each of those products. So we'll be calling in the calculate function, calling in the total revenue, and this time we'll be creating a filter that asks to filter in all of the results to be focused on skincare. So we will do that across all the or repeat the same calculations we did in the total, but jet towards each of those product types.
You know who made it.
So once we have all of that sorted, next up is to bring in the background. So I've created this background in PowerPoint. Let me know if you'd be interested in seeing how to create this in PowerPoint. I'll be happy to drop a tutorial that could act as a guide. But this is a finished background in which I created in PowerPoint. So I have attached the link to this PowerPoint using the transparency so that we could have this background clearly visible. However you want to make changes to your background, choose how you want it. So once we have that sorted, we can start bringing in the different metrics we've calculated. First would be to get the total revenue and just in a KPI card, and then just make a few changes on how you want the KPI card to be. So just follow through on how I'm able to create this. I'm going to change the fonts and the sizing of these KPI cards. I'm going to be using Arial. And once we have that, I'm also going to be changing the alignment of the title. We will then go ahead to change the text color so that it could blend with the background behind, because we'll be turning off the KPI card background so that it fits the inspiration we are taking this from. So once we are satisfied with how the KPI card looks, we can go ahead to use that to create the create more KPI cards that we'll be using throughout our dashboard creation. So I wanted to add like a demarcation between the total revenue and the next metric, which is the quantity sold. And with this, all we just have to do is to select the total quantity sold, copy this KPI card to create the other KPI cards we'll be using within our dashboard. We're just going to rename them and change the font color. And once we have that sorted, we can then use that to create the other KPI cards. In matrix, we would use a matrix to create the heat map. So I'm just going to populate that and resize that to fit. So in the rows, we can have, just like the images, we'll have the different SKUs, while in the columns, we're going to have the different supplier names. So that's just going to populate the columns. Then for the values, we want to have the revenues or the cosmetics that were sold. We're going to have the cosmetics that were sold. Once we have that, we can now go ahead to do a proper formatting of this matrix chart. I'm just going to go to the formatting pane, and in the formatting pane, I'm going to select the background color as well as font color. I'm going to have a gradient for the format style, and you should not format values that 0. I'll repeat the same process for the font color, just keeping in line with the consistent color scheme that we have here. I will again turn off the grid lines. So the border that has like a green line, I'm going to change it to a gray color so that it blends. Once I have that sorted, I'm going to change the style to none. Like it should just be a none. It should not have any color, it should not have any grid lines across it. Once we have that sorted again, we can then go ahead to adjust all our font types for the values, for the column headers, and that's just that. If you made it to this point of the video, you should absolutely be proud of yourself. I hope you're proud of the progress you've made so far. So concerning the map, requires a paid version for us to be able to use the map that UI Jaya used. But in the meantime, this is the functional dashboard that we have. One of the last things that we are going to be imputing here would be a slicer. If you're new to Power BI, a slicer acts as a filter that you can use to filter your data. And these slicers will be based on our carriers, on the different carriers that we have, and we're just going to again format the slicers to be able to fit the aesthetics that we're going for. So this is what it looks like. This is the finished look on my end. You just bring in the map charts and just make a few edits, and that's just that. So thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. Let me know if there are other dashboards you would like me to create. I'm just up for the challenge, and let's see what we can learn along the way. See you in my next one.